All right, and welcome to the Yorkshire Football Podcast. It's another week of isolation and another week without any live football to be getting sunk into. But we are here and we are going to be talking Yorkshire football. We're going to be looking at the greatest Yorkshire away days. That's all coming up on the podcast. But first, let me introduce you to today's Yorkshire football fans. From Sheffield Wednesday fan, John Riley. All right, John?
Yeah, mate, all right.
And from Huddersfield fan, Matt Goodwin.
Dominic, you all right?
All right. Oh, only my mum calls me Dominic, mate. And from Leeds United, recovering after last week's podcast disappointment, it's Adam Everington. All right, Ads.
I was waiting for an insult, and a referral to last week. You didn't disappoint, Dom. You never disappoint.
No. I don't. And I mean, I could have picked on you because you've got the shittest shirt on I've ever seen.
It is a shit shirt. I agree. It's even got sleeve badges. It's got Coca-Cola football sleeve badges on. It's designed by Macron. I don't know if this flight. I'm pretty sure netflights.com are long gone, and they probably have anyway in post-coronavirus anyway. But yeah, it's our 2008-2009 playoff semi-final losing shirt against Millwall.
So what made you choose that?
To be honest, I was just digging out some old shirts because last week obviously I had the 2000-2002 Strongbow on, better times. But yeah, I just came across this and thought, why not? I'll get it out of the way. I've got better to come, including some Thistle Hotel shirts.
We've got some good shirts on show today. Gooders, you've got a lovely old Huddersfield shirt on.
Hi, mate. I got it on offer before the playoff final. They were selling the old retro shirts like 15 quid. So it's the 1908 founding shirt. Nice and comfortable. It's like a pyjama top. And I thought I'd wear it to pay homage to the fact that it feels like I've not watched Town since 1908. So, yeah, just thought I'd whack it on.
That's a lovely shirt. Did you win the league title back then? Was it Division 1 or whatever they called it then?
It's a good question. We didn't win the title in our founding year, but I think it was 1911 onwards that we won 3 titles back to back. Hence the 3 stars on that.
I think it was 1930, 31, 32, something like that.
Was it a bit later?
Yeah.
Right.
And
I'm going to Google it, but I'm surprised you don't know because most Huddersfield fans have that tattooed on their ass.
It's definitely early 30s. And I know that because Wednesday won the league title the 2 seasons before Huddersfield, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%, but it's definitely...
it's been nice dialing in. Take care of yourselves.
1924 to 1926, according to the source of all truth that is Wikipedia.
Right, yeah. Well, you know.
So, great start to the podcast.
Hey.
Riley, your shirt's also very lovely. Is that this season's?
No, mate. This was the 2016-2017 Ipswich shirt. As it was done, Mr. Chancellor decided that blue and white stripes weren't lucky enough. So he designed the kit and went with an all blue kit with kind of white pinstripes. It was one of them that kind of actually divided fans. Obviously, like you get these.
It's very smart.
Yeah, do you know what it is? I like it. It's a bit tight on the arms, so like even if you're not a muscular lad like me, the guns still kind of pop out a little bit. So I'm happy. Yeah, sometimes I just go wear it down the beach, don't I?
Shame it's Sondico.
I know. Do you know what though? Sondico is a terrible brand, but they made some decent kits. The kit we wore to the playoff final the year before is probably my all-time favourite Wednesday kit.
Wow. They used to be the absolute daddy of goalie gloves, didn't they, Sondico? And then they just got cheapened by Mike Ashley.
Royce.
Gloves and shin pads.
Right, lads.
Decent shin pads.
Enough of our terrible banter and awful knowledge of Huddersfield Town's title-winning seasons. Let's take a look at Yorkshire's greatest away day. Now, it's a cause for contention across the region, and no set of fans ever really agree. I know that we slightly agreed on Bootham Crescent, but I think that's just like a nostalgia thing because we all go there pre-season. I think Nethermore as well, Leeds always go there, Bradford go there pre-season. But a proper Yorkshire away day. John, let's start with you. Why does a proper Yorkshire away day happen for you?
Favourite Yorkshire away day is Oakwell, Barnsley. it's kind of I know it's weird to say this, but it's kind of central within Yorkshire. So from Sheffield, it's 25 minutes on the train. From Leeds, it's 40 minutes. You got the train station right in the middle of the town, so it makes everyone gets in the train and makes that kind of walk up the hill and then down the hill to Oakwell. And as you walk down, you kind of down all these terrace houses either side. It's in the valley, and then the allocation you get is like between 4,000 and 6,000, depending on kind of what the police saying that day. And yeah, it's just cracking day. Whenever I think Barnsley fans a bit pretty much like most. When it's an average league game, they can kind of be hit or miss, kind of attendance wise. But when a big Yorkshire rival comes to town, they kind of turn out in their numbers. So you get a great atmosphere. Sometimes you'll get a decent game, but you'll get the big single-tiered stand behind the net. You can make a right racket. I've been there when there's been kind of 7,000-8,000 Wednesday fans behind the net and on the side stand. I've seen us win quite a few times. Seen us get beat a few times as well. And then you kind of like all come out of the ground together, back up that hill, back towards the train station. And I just like it. It's kind of when you've got these new like modern bowl stadiums, your Leicesters, your Southamptons, your Derbys, out in the middle of nowhere. You might not see a home fan coming out. Everyone gets back in their cars and drives off. It's kind of a real throwback, but it's still a nice little stadium, Oakwell.
And it's a proper old school stadium, isn't it? Nice, like still got steel girders on show, which is a rarity these days.
Yeah, and it's one of them where it's like it's still kind of got this. I think it's the west stand, the really old stand where the kind of dugouts are. It's kind of throwback to a turn of the 20th century, never mind the 21st. But the other three stands are pretty smart. They're kind of having that real throwback stand gives that real sense of nostalgia. And do you know what? I like it. I like old school grounds, and I like going to Barnsley as well. So yeah, I think favourite away day in Yorkshire is I'm going to stick my vote for Oakwell.
There's something about red brick stadiums as well, isn't there? When there's a bit of red brick on show, I don't know what it is. Quite romantic.
I like it when you're in old school as well. Do you know when you can't see the stadium until you're kind of right on top of it as well?
Yeah.
It's like these out of town stadiums that are like, I don't know, by an M1 junction or they're kind of an industrial estate. They do nothing for me. I like your turf moors where you basically don't know where it is until you're actually there, or you would park.
Goodison Park, yeah.
Goodison, yeah.
Oh, Aston Villa's the best example of that, I reckon. Villa Park's probably the best stadium I've ever been to. And I include like Wembley and the new camp in that.
Big shout.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's a proper old school stadium, really like cool on the outside, amazing atmosphere. You just can't beat Villa Park.
Villa Park is special. Holt End's one of the best behind the goal like cops I've ever seen, hands down.
I think, do you remember Rotherham's old ground? I mean, this is probably one of my shouts here, but Rotherham's old Millmoor ground was absolutely unbelievable. It was like a little red brick and corrugated iron stadium, really low stands, right next to a scrappy. You had to walk down like a narrow road that was red brick either side of it to get down to the stadium. I mean, that was one that's similar. Like you didn't really know where it was until you were right on top of it. Walk down from the train station. And again, proper old school ground. I mean, the last few years it was properly run down. It had been neglected. I think they tried to build a new stand and it didn't get finished. But in that away end, it was absolutely class. You were crammed in, great atmosphere, and you could smell the pollution from Rotherham. But it was just, that was a proper away day because you were kind of funneled down by the police as well, all in a big crowd.
I remember when Leeds got relegated from the Premier League in the first year after in the Championship. We played Rotherham away on a Friday night, and I'm sure it was at Millmoor in that time. And I remember watching on telly and thinking, right, we aren't the club we used to be at that time. It was, we were used to big games, we were used to a big occasion, and all of a sudden we were playing it, like you say, a run down Millmoor, scrapping for 3 points on a Friday night. And yeah, but you definitely, whilst it was a reality shock, there's definitely something glamorous about that side of the game, isn't there? And these old stadiums. I mean, I've spent a lot of time at Castleford Rugby League's ground. I know this is a football podcast, but that's a real sort of throwback stadium, and the fans are right on the pitch, and the atmosphere is brilliant, and the pitch is so tight. It's just a brilliant atmosphere, and I think, like John says, a lot of that does get lost. I mean, I'd love to, speaking of grounds which are gone, I'd love to go to the Dell and to Filbert Street as well. I'd love to go back in time and go to one of those games. Like, I know they're outside of Yorkshire, but I mean, luckily I went to Griffin Park as well for the Leeds game a couple of months ago.
That's a proper stadium as well.
Just glad I've been. Just really glad I've been now.
It's part of a dying breed of grounds, isn't it? You're kind of close to the pitch, packed terrace, few wooden seats still left. But I guess obviously the game today, if you want to grow as a club, what accommodates that is getting a new ground. And unfortunately, you're seeing these grounds like, Goodison, Griffin Park. Probably Ellen Road won't be what it is now in 5 years' time, I don't reckon. It'll change completely. So,
I think Ellen Road will change. We're back in the Champions League. We've got Premier League money. I think probably expand to about 60,000 and state of the art hospitality in there. But we'll still have that atmosphere because we're a massive club.
What are we going to do with
delusions of grandeur?
What other 400,000 Leeds fans going to do though if it's only a 60,000 stadium? Not rude.
Well, good as on the subject of modernising stadiums, Huddersfield were probably one of the first to move away from the traditional four-sided ground and go for something that, I don't know, it's been described as all sorts before, hasn't it? A bit of an alien spaceship.
I had all sorts, like an Alton Towers ride when you look at it in the distance, people thinking someone slapped a roller coaster in the middle of Kirklees.
Yeah.
But it was 94, because it was the year I was born. They moved over to, back then it was called the Alfred McAlpine. And since then, we only built it with two stands. So if you look at, and they're the two stands that run adjacent to the touchline. So if you look back at pictures when we first opened that stadium, we had no stands behind either the goal. Really weird look. And we built the second two stands in the second season. And from there, obviously sharing it with Huddersfield Giants. And there's a debate that the atmosphere has not been there. But in our first Premier League season, tell you what, travelling away fans to the John Smiths couldn't sing its praises more. This isn't one to toot my own trumpet, but I was fortunate enough to get to kind of final interview stage with Man City probably about this time a year and a half ago, and we were just talking about football.
Did they need a new waiter and staff? Or?
Well, that's it. Yeah. They need a shoe buff from front door. But. On that note, speaking to her at the time, who was the hiring manager, and she was saying how in the past 5-6 years she's worked at the club, the best away day she's ever been to in terms of atmosphere, not hospitality in terms of facilities, but the club staff was Huddersfield. And I think a reason for that is our kind of singing congregation, the Cowshed Loyal, as we call it. They're situated right next to the away fans, and we have that segregation behind the goal. And fans who've come and travelled, obviously, the home atmosphere has been up and down, particularly in our second Premier League season and onwards. But that first season where every game was a cup final, we were beating Man United at home, finding results against teams like West Ham. Ultimately, it was absolutely rocking each time. I won't sit here and say it's the best away day in the Premier League. Or even the Championship now, sorry.
Well, it's not even an away day for you.
Well, it's not even an away day. But if I'm, sticking to my loyals here, I'd say I don't think Huddersfield's up there in terms of kind of competing grounds. But yeah,
I don't know. It's a nice stadium. The only weird thing about it is the lack of corners. I kind of like a football. It feels a bit weird that it just drops down and then there's nothing. Although a beautiful backdrop. If we're talking about best backdrops in football, Huddersfield, 100%. All those pine trees. What a backdrop.
It is nice. And you've got Pizza Hut and the cinema next door. So that would be my classic go-to day out. My dad would take me to the cinema. We'd get a pizza hut. We go to the game and we go home. And it's all within stone's throw of each other. But you mentioned it there, Dom. It was a flat pack build, so to speak. Not to speak down on it, but all the stands were built separately. I don't know if it was due to finance at the time, but you certainly lose a little bit of atmosphere. You don't get that bowl effect, but I still rate it.
So your favourite away day is at the John Smith Stadium, the home of...
Well, I'm flying the flag, but if I'm speaking from personal experience, I don't have much away day experience. I'm a bit of, I like my home comforts, but the one away day I have been on, I've been to a couple, not for town though, but it's only Ellen Road, really. It was when we beat Leeds 1-0 promotion season, Aaron Moy. I got a ticket that was given to me by a mate of my dad's, like last minute. So I went down with them lads, and I think it was more the occasion and the belief at the start of the season. We strung some results together, and we looked kind of that we were going to have a bit of a charge that season, playoffs at least. And yeah, I think the fact that you kind of packed into that corner next to the south stand, which I know at the time it wasn't really as bustling as it is now, because I know you'll have to fill me in, Adam. I know. Was it the Don Revy, the other side? That was like your traditional cop. And then it kind of switched over to the south stand. But either way, you go to Leeds United, you know, give the fans credit where it's due. They certainly back their team when they need to at home, and it just makes a really fiery atmosphere. Plus, the fact that it's a West Yorkshire derby. So that's probably the best away day for me.
Ellen Road's definitely up there for me. I think the last time I went was Johnson's Paint Trophy, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was absolutely the atmosphere outside. It was pretty hostile, I must admit, but you know, Leeds fans have got to live up to their reputation, haven't they?
Yeah.
And
I was packed. Yeah, no, it is good. I'd say it added to it somewhat, but I was kind of packed up right into the west stands. So you end up getting a bit of a letterbox view of the pitch, which is fine. I just about saw Aaron Moy spank it in from 30 yards. But at the same time, like you kind of feel like you lose the kind of the depth of Ellen Road, because it's pretty big, and you know, seeing all the fans from each end kind of giving it large, especially in that game where they never really got going. It was quite hostile at points. Yeah, that's the thing. It was kind of lost a bit, but class nonetheless. It was really, really good.
I mean, it's a good old school stadium. I mean, I've watched Bradford against Leeds there before, but I've also been there to watch England under 21s and the full team. And it's just, as much as I hate to admit it, putting aside my differences with Leeds United fans, the stadium it's still got that old school feel. I mean, on the outside, it literally looks exactly the same as it did back when what was he called, manager? Don Revy. So the same like red brick on the outside. But I like that about football, and it's getting, like we've said before, it's getting harder and harder for football clubs to keep those stands maintained, and the cheaper option for a lot of them has been to replace them. You look at Doncaster, for instance, they went for the IKEA flat pack stadium, looks exactly the same as Darlington's. I mean, I hate to mention Darlington on this podcast, but does anyone know what's happened to their stadium now? Does it still exist?
I think they use another stadium up in Darlington, and they don't actually use the big shiny one. Like, I have driven past it a couple of times actually. It's just, you are just going in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden this big stadium appears. But I think in terms of, yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone's using it. I might be wrong. As we know, we're not exactly the best fact checkers on this podcast, but I think on Ellen Road, I think if it was up to the club, you know, we would have a bit of a shinier, a bit of a nicer new stadium. You know, the club just hasn't had, it's barely had any money in, you know, in recent years to function, let alone look at improving stadiums and stuff. But I think that is in the plans for if Leeds do get back in the Premier League, to have a look at the stadium and to do a bit of redevelopment. And I think that west stand, that stand where the away fans are now in, that is the one which needs sort of knocking down and building back up. But I would absolutely hate to move our club to a new stadium. You look at West Ham and you feel sorry for their fans. You know, they've got rid of Upton Park and got the Olympic Stadium. Multiple other clubs, you know, changed location and lost a bit of their soul. I think Spurs is just about all right. You know, they've basically just knocked it down and rebuilt it, you know, bigger and better, which it still is on White Hart Lane. You know, you've still got your match day traditions. That's absolutely fine. Like, I'd be happy with that at Leeds one day. I think Liverpool have done a great job with Anfield. You know, they've still maintained Anfield, but you look at their stadium now, it's absolutely fantastic. And you know, that's the route I want to go down with Ellen Road. Getting back to the topic anyway. Getting back to the topic of best away day. I think.
Oh yeah.
I know you mentioned Rotherham, Don, but I actually quite like the new Rotherham away day. I think, you know, it's just like quite an easy ground to get to. It's not too far from the station. It's not too far from the pubs in the town.
Oh, it's characterless though.
It is a bit characterless, but I'm also a big fan of getting a full away end behind the goal, and they have got that at Rotherham. one thing, the first time I went to Rotherham in 2015, 14 maybe, we lost 2-1. Antonucci scored and then Rotherham came back and won 2-1 second half, typically. But that was the first time I'd experienced cheering being played when a goal's been scored over the PA.
Oh, no.
Rotherham scored. It was Johnson Clark Harris banged one in for about 20 yards, and all the fans went up and cheered. Then all of a sudden, you just heard a second wave of cheering because the guy pressed play on the speaker, and it does all sort of compound into being one of those grounds. But yeah, I think I don't mind it too much.
Showing my age, but first time I heard goal music was, you might remember this from Premier League years, but Bolton back in the day. So probably went to the Reebok in 98, 99 maybe, about 99. And that was the first time it was, I feel good.
Oh, God.
You'd have two lads or ball boys type with like one of those like big flags, and they'd run around the pitch with a massive Bolton flag around the pitch. And like we've just been dicked 1-0 by a Bolton team, like the worst in history. And then we've got this music playing in the background. I was like, oh my God, what am I listening to?
It's a bit MLS for me. Because even the MLS now, they have flames that fly out behind the goals and stuff. I don't know. It's not for me, the music. I think, is it Norwich now? They still play that. What's that called?
Yeah, that's Norwich's. They've had that for a while now. And I don't mind.
Wasn't that Borough as well?
Did they do that?
Borough had that.
Yeah, it might be, but what I mean, what are your thoughts? Similar, so I mean, John and Gooders, your club both have the drummers as well. What are your thoughts on the drum?
I hate the band, mate. I sit in the south stand at Hillsborough with like the prawn sandwich lads. So back in the day, not for me. I don't like them. I like generating an atmosphere. I don't like kind of being dictated to what kind of rhythms and which songs should be sang and stuff like that. No, it's not for me.
It's not something I'm a huge fan of, but I think at Town, there's only, to be fair, the kind of Britannia Rescue stand in like the Cowshed Loyal area, like they pipe up the most. But there's only one chant at Town which kind of suits the banging of the drum, and that's the "Who to be a Terrier" chant. Because that does get the ground going massively, particularly for out on the front foot we've just scored. But other than that, I don't really like the use of the drumming for like your more standard chants. That "Who to be a Terrier" chant does it for me, but nah, it's not the best.
I can't believe not a single one of you have mentioned Valley Parade. Good old school stadium. You can see success and then our failure. You know, go to the Premier League, build a big stand, and then think, oh, we don't have enough.
Yeah, but it's
in James's Park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in Bradford though, mate. So it's never going to be like the best away day, is it?
Yeah. Shots fired.
I don't know what to.
Shots fired.
I'm not a big fan of the city of Bradford either. I'll be honest with you.
I've got bad memories of Valley Parade. I can remember once going with Wednesday back in 2004, 2005-ish, and kind of being rounded up from the city centre and being taken to the ground like an hour and a half, 2 hours before kickoff, and basically being told, "No, you're here now. You stay in the ground." And I'm pretty sure that I can't remember why, but it was just kind of an issue between Wednesday fans and West Yorkshire police. But yeah, it kind of soured the day. I've been a couple of times since. It's okay. Yeah, something about Valley Parade. I don't know what it is. It's like you go to other clubs and you kind of get a welcome. I'm not sure. Like pubs in this town centre were closing, and I just didn't feel like they wanted football fans there.
Should have known it was to do with the bloody pubs.
Well, that's a massive part of the day, isn't it?
It is. You're right.
Do you know what, Dom? I've only been to Valley Parade once, and you're gonna hate me for that. And do you know what? You'll never guess what game it was. It was England under-21s against Italy under-21s back in about 2000, 2001.
Yeah, I mean, you must have been young there.
Very rogue.
I went when I think I was 12, maybe.
Yeah, I think I must have been about 7 or 8 at that point. But yeah, and funnily enough, I looked back at the teams on that day.
Yeah, they're unbelievable, aren't they?
But yeah, they're not bad. I mean, Italy playing centre midfielder, Andrea Pirlo.
Yeah, they had Macaroni playing as well.
Macaroni was playing. I think for England, I think the team wasn't quite as good, but we had a couple of players. I think Alan Smith was in the team at the time, amongst a couple of others who had half decent. Carragher might have been in as well, actually. But
I think Carrick.
Yeah, Carrick might have been in, but yeah, I need to get back to Valley Parade. I'll just have to hope that Leeds draw you in the League Cup next year, and you have a bit of a run to maybe third round or something.
Might win pre-season.
I actually went this season, Dom. You were at home against Port Vale, and you had what can only be described as just one of the worst last-minute goals I've ever seen conceded.
We're terrible, mate. We've been terrible all season.
Yeah, we don't need to dwell on it, but Valley Parade in general, I was very surprised at how big it was. Kind of away fans packed in that far terrace. I don't know if you usually get a bigger allocation than that, but yeah, I'm quite doing away day at Bradford. It just depends if Huddersfield draw them again at any point, but we'll see. Could be with the way we're going, but
you lot all getting on your bloody high horses about what league you're in. Oh, is Bradford going to run?
Tom, I'm just looking at the teams now at this game. 21,000 in attendance for England. Paul Robinson, Zach Knight, Gareth Barry, J. Lloyd Samuel, Sean Wright Phillips, Jermaine Genus, Prutz is in centre mid.
Oh, wow.
My namesake, Matty Everington, Jermaine Defoe, so Peter Crouch on the bench, Jermaine Pennant, Scott Parker, Stephen Bywater. Some not bad players, actually.
Matty Everington was class. He ended up playing for Bradford.
Yeah, he was a solid player. Italy, I mean, there is a Cannavaro. I'm assuming it's not that Cannavaro. But yeah, Macaroni, Pirlo, Donati on the bench as well. Oh, Gilardino and Jack Winter as well. So
bloody hell!
Yeah, we didn't do too bad there. Best quality football at Valley Parade for a good couple of decades, anyway.
Probably put that on his board, didn't they?
Right, on that note, lads, well done. Good podcast.
Yeah, class.
Yeah, so what have we decided from all of that we're all still undecided on what is the best Yorkshire away day?
What were yours, Dom? You never give us yours.
Well, yeah, I've got a few. Like Ellen Road, like I said, that's pretty decent. Rotherham's old Millmore ground, that was a lovely one as well. Hull's not really Yorkshire, is it? But that's another flat pack furniture. Bramall Lane. How could we forget Bramall Lane? Absolute beauty. Apart from that, I think last time Bradford were there a few years ago, we were in the lower tier of the stand, and the home fans in the upper tier started pissing over the edge. But yeah, Bramall Lane's quality, the atmosphere there's class. Again,
the best song in football as well. Not to cut across you, mate.
Go on.
They're greasy chip butty songs.
Can you give us a rendition?
I cannot, but it's yeah. That really gets the game going, I admit. When you're at Bramall Lane and you sing that before kick-off, it's pretty special.
And obviously Sheffield United, they're leading the way for Yorkshire football teams at the minute. On that note, actually, the FA have moved the transfer window so that the seasons can be finished at some point. So they've moved the transfer windows to whenever the seasons finish, whenever that might be.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, you know. But obviously, as a Leeds fan, I want the season finishing, but I do think it should be finished. And I think, like we said last week, you know, football decides when the season finishes, so why can't it just decide to extend it a bit further and a bit longer?
Yeah, no, it's not like a calendar, is it? It's not like we're going to change it to a 3-day week. It's not that, is it? It's not like you know, someone's giving birth and we know it's 9 months from start to finish. You know, it can just be adjusted. I mean, there will be a few things that I am thinking as a Leeds fan. You know, Pablo Hernandez, if we don't get football back till later on in the year, you know, he's going to have another 6 months on his legs, and that's the only thing really. And obviously, injured players will come back, but overall, like, season needs finishing, and football can decide. And I think for me, it's really good news. Yeah, well, as a Bradford fan, I'm indifferent about it, mate. It must be the same for Sheffield Wednesday and Huddersfield, lads.
Yeah, I said last week, mate. happy for the season to end right now. Let's just. I won't care if Leeds got promoted or not. As long as kind of the clubs at the bottom two divisions were looked after, and National League looked after those kind of teams who might struggle financially. That's the only thing that kind of I'd be interested in making sure that there was some sort of kind of financial fair play there for if whatever the league decides.
What will they do about player contracts? Because obviously the contracts are due to run out at the end of the season, June or whenever that is. So what will there be a something in place that enables those players to play for the club until the season's actually finished, whenever that might be? Could be December or something. And will they still be getting paid by that club?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I think it just makes sense, doesn't it, just to extend those contracts along, and as long as the club and player will obviously have to agree, because that is, it's something which the player is going to have to give up his time and his career for that. But I think, and there might be players who already have transfers sort of penciled in and new clubs they want to go to and whatnot. But I think it's hard to say. We're just going to have to sit tight and wait to see what happens. But I think it makes sense just to extend those in line.
Yeah, you'd assume that players' contracts are drawn up on like a season by season kind of timeline. So, it's not often you hear people reference, his contract's up in August. It's usually the end of the season. So I can only assume that there's like something written in there to say, has to conclude playing said season, and then you go on from there. Because you can't even imagine clubs would have accounted for something like this. But as you say, there are vital players that might need to see their teams over the line, and if they have to, see out that contract and honour it, then that makes complete sense, both for the benefit of the club and probably the player themselves. But it's a tricky one for sure.
Okay, so it's come time in the podcast where we look back at one of Yorkshire's great derbies, and today's nomination comes from Adam Etherington. Adam, what have you gone for?
It does come from me. We've decided that we're going to do a snake system on the podcast. So as Leeds lost last week to Bradford 2-1 in 2014, Leeds are now up to choose their game to look back on. And the one I've chosen to look back on this week is Leeds 5, Huddersfield 1 from 2014, about 8 months before that defeat to Bradford, actually. So this game is synonymous because the night before was the point in which Massimo Cellino thought he'd taken over Leeds United and supposedly sacked Brian McDermott. Turned out Cellino actually didn't own the club yet. And you remember on Sky Sports News that all the Leeds fans pinned him in and refused to let him leave Ellen Road, and absolute chaos ensued. So Nigel Gibbs, McDermott's assistant, actually ended up taking this game before McDermott returned to the club in a statement announced by the club midway through the second half. So that's the sort of club Leeds were at the time. But in terms of the team, we had in goal, number 1, Paddy Kenny, Sam Byram at right back, Stephen Warnock at left back, and then 2 at centre half were Tom Lees and Jason Pearce. In midfield, we had Rudy Austin, Luke Murphy, and Alex Mowat. And either side of Ross McCormack up front were the 2 new wingers, the 2 new hotshots that were going to see Leeds United into the playoffs. It was Cameron Stewart and Jimmy Kebe. Gooders, do you want to take us through the town team?
Yeah, sorry, Dave, for us lot. Certainly can. In goal, Alex Smithies, the homegrown boy. Set up with a back 4 that day. Paul Dixon, Tommy Smith went on to captain us the next season when Mark Hudson retired. So this was kind of like a good starting point for him. Murray Wallace, interesting Grayson signing, kind of rotated as centre back. And then Callum Woods, who was a bit of a sporadic full-back who never really made it for us. And then quite a noteworthy midfield, to be honest. So kind of defensive mid, we had Anthony Gerrard. Again, bit of an EFL journeyman, brought in after the League One promotion. and featured quite heavily that season. We have Adam Clayton, frosty reception, obviously, at Ellen Road. Grayson bought him for around 400k at that time, which, despite being quite well rated at Leeds, I thought it was a great signing for us. We had Oscar Gobbin, prodigal's son, who Lee Clark brought in. A very quick lad, but kind of plagued by injury. Ollie Norwood, obviously, might be a Premier League starter, but he was made at Huddersfield Town. Kind of had that extra edge at EFL level that Man United academy products kind of really bring to the table. It was good to see him start. It's a bit of a throwback. And then Danny Ward on the left. He's kind of, a bit of our nippy winger at the time. Had over 100 appearances for us. And then up front, Narky Wells, just to give Dom a bit of, a nice throwback
Legend.
there. Yeah, we actually bought him the month previous, and this was his kind of first game to really stake his claim as our record signing, and didn't really get the chance, to be honest.
Sees the punt from Woods. This is Ward! What a finish! What an emphatic hit that is!
Yeah, so I remember following this and being quite surprised we opened the scoring, but yeah, Danny Ward on the left, it was kind of what he always did for Town, kind of invited the tackle, shifts inside, turns back out, and then I think he puts it through his legs. I don't know who that defender is on the near side, but he's done well to stick that into the far corner, and yeah, at this point, I thought every chance of kind of, snatching a win at Ellen Road, but so they went downhill from there, but...
Yeah, the defender is Sam Byram, who obviously he's having a pretty good career, like back in the Premier League now. At the time, very much pretty much our only hope. There wasn't much to shout about in that team at that moment in time, but yeah, it was one of them. After all the turmoil that happened the night before, when that goes in, it's not long since we lost 6-0 away at Sheffield Wednesday at this point, and you are thinking, are we in for another battering here?
Okay, so Ross McCormack, he played a key part in this, obviously, and his first came just before half-time, I think like the 48th minute. Decent finish, I suppose.
Touched on. It's a scramble in there, and Leeds United have their goal. Ross McCormack, the wanted man on transfer deadline day, makes it 1-1.
He was quality for Leeds, wasn't he, McCormack? Shame how his career. I know he went on to quite well for Fulham for a couple of seasons, but he was absolutely brilliant at one stage. What was that like? That is like 50th goal in this game or something.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He carried us for a few seasons. His goals, and if you look back at his goals for Leeds, there were some absolute belters in there, and he was a top class player. And we ended up getting like 11 million for him from Fulham, and then obviously he went and got another big transfer fee to Villa. But yeah, McCormack at this time, I mean, without him, God, it would have been really even bleaker days. And yeah, I think we would have been much closer, if not relegated, in a couple of those seasons were it not for him.
He wasn't the same player, was he, once he left Leeds? I mean, he did all right at Fulham, I suppose, but he was never that same player. I mean, you look in this game in particular, and he was absolutely lethal, and you didn't really see that again from him once he'd gone.
That's it, and I do think it was one of those where the team was built around him at Leeds. I think he really enjoyed playing for the club, and he was one of them, like he relished the atmosphere and he relished the pressure of being Leeds player and then Leeds captain. And it was a shame to see him go, but it was good money, and at the time, you could understand why the club sold him. But I do think if you ask McCormack, if it wasn't for money and it wasn't for the club not going in a bit of turmoil at the time and not really going anywhere, he would have liked to have stayed at Leeds.
So it took Leeds a little while to get going in the second half of this one. Going in, having just scored at half-time, I guess the momentum's with them. Took them, 15 minutes or so? And then Kebe with this delicate finish.
Now it's McCormack and Kebe! Jimmy Kebe! turnaround complete for Leeds United.
Oh, look at that. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, it was when he joined Leeds. He was really it was a really good signing. You know, he'd done it at Championship level for a good number of years with Reading, and you know, he was one of them which, when we were crying out for a winger, he just ticked every box. And he had a really difficult start to his career at Leeds. Like, he didn't play well for a number of games, but in this game, he really sort of came into his own. And it was the Kebe we thought we had signed. And like you say, that finish, you know, it showed a great deal of composure. You know, McCormack again, lovely little back heel, but Kebe just to dink it round the defender, then to dink it over the keeper. Absolute quality.
I'm going to step in and criticise my lot, if you don't mind. So obviously Ross has back-heeled it, played the reverse pass, and Murray Wallace has gone to ground like a sack of spanners there. There's no need for him to do that. All he has to do is stand Kebe. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't exactly the same handful at Leeds as he was at Reading. And if he stands his ground and just reads a run, he can tackle him, in my opinion. But, yeah.
He showed him a lot of the goal, didn't he? He gave him a lot of the goal to aim at there when he didn't.
Absolutely.
Really
yeah, exactly. But, you know, shouldn't have gone to ground, but fair play, tidy finish. Can't knock
Murray
that.
Wallace sounds like a guy who kind of goes in pubs and sells like 3 T-shirts for a tenner. Or that kind of guy.
DVDs.
yeah, that kind of guy. You know, one who goes in pubs and like might sell fruit as well while he's at it, or he'll sell like knockoff Rolexes. So no wonder why he got beat 5-1 if he got him at centre back.
Well, the floodgates opened after that Kebe goal, and Leeds really made that momentum count, taking it right from that goal at the end of the first half. Following Kebe's goal on 50th minute, Ross McCormack got the second of his 3.
Leeds haven't won any of the last 5 games at home. The city goal would send them a long way to that victory, and they've got it through Ross McCormack.
Austin, Byram, McCormack. Oh, lovely. Do you know what? That goal was one of the best put together goals we actually scored in that period. You know, Rudy Austin had it in the middle. Really nice ball out to Byram, and the one thing, McCormack really dragged the defender away if you watch it back. And you know, Byram to McCormack, that had the potential to be something special, but unfortunately just never quite materialised. And both ended up leaving the club sort of shortly after this. And but yeah, lovely little ball across, and McCormack, right place, right time. And at this point, you're thinking, wow, all this turmoil that's going on, you know, is McDermott, was he the problem? Like, are we now playing this free-flowing, lovely attacking football? But pretty much around this goal, this is when Leeds then announced that McDermott was actually staying.
So is this pre or post Warnock?
This is post Warnock. So a year before this, we had Warnock. We had Warnock from back end of 2011-12 to back end of 2012-13, about a year. And then McDermott came in for him. And then, this is where sort of McDermott left for that one game.
So you've got Kenny, net, and then obviously two of Warnock's favourite. You've got Tong and Brown on the bench.
Yeah.
I think it thinks of a Warnock outfit, that.
Tonge, Brownie, Kenny, Peltzy. Yeah, all the Warnock lads. I think Paddy Kenny was ringing him twice a day, telling him how much he missed him at this point.
Lee Peltier was class, though. He was unreal for us. Probably by the time he got to Leeds.
We'd have had that version of him, to be honest. He wasn't the best at Leeds, but he was played at centre back a bit actually, because Byram had that right back position sort of sewn up over a number of years, and then Peltz went to centre half or left back a little bit, but. Yeah, I don't think we saw the best of him at Ellen Road.
Right, should we get this wrapped up? It's quite painful watching these goals back.
Let's get the better of his man. He has done. McCormack! Hat-trick! Through an astonishing 24 hours in the life of Leeds United. Ross McCormack, a hat-trick hero.
Here we go, Ross McCormack's hat-trick. 4-1 to Leeds United. I mean, look at him there. He was an absolutely lethal striker, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's it. And do you know what? This goal's funny because this is the other winger we signed to sort of fix all our problems, Cameron Stewart. with a loan to buy, actually, and we were forced to buy him, but Massimo Cellino just basically refused to pay the money for him at the end of the deal because he didn't do very well. But in this way, it does quite nice. That pulls it back to McCormack, and yeah, there's the hat-trick, and another lovely finish.
I just want to highlight, not taking away from the finish, obviously it's come to him in the back post, and he's got stuff to do there. But I'm just having a quick rewatch. So I think it's Murray Wallace again. So obviously...
Well, you ain't Murray Wallace.
Ewing on the left, he's pulled it to the byline and he's put the ball back across with what is a ground pass. And Softlad's turned his back to it as if it's fizzing into his face. And then you've got no one at the back stick looking for the arriving ball. Like, I just think that literally that goal epitomises how poor we were that day. Who's picking up at the back post? I have no idea. And then even when it gets knocked back in, no one's diving across the goal line to get to it. You want to see some bodies flying there. You want to see some limbs going across the goal, but there's just nothing. Just lacklustre. But to be fair, that day, looking back, we had quite a few key players missing. So again, massive throwback. We had Mark Hudson out, who's now part of our coaching setup. We had Joel Lynch out, and Connor Cody was one of our featuring. Kind of dipped into centre-half, centre-mid, but he played for us that season. And yeah, I'm not surprised we bottled it defensively that day. We were pretty poor.
Well, that was depressing.
just chiming in where I can.
One thing I have noticed from these video clips ads is that Leeds United's pitch is absolutely covered in rubbish.
Yeah. Again, probably
no respect.
Cellino era, probably didn't have any money to sort of pay someone to go around and pick it up, probably. But yeah, it does happen. If there's a bit of wind around Ellen Road, you do get a bit of litter on pitch.
Well, the goal that put the cherry on the cake for Leeds United is this one.
And they might just get another one. Tomorrow it's 5. Well, they've only scored 4 goals in the last 8 games in all competitions. And now 5 have all come at once here against Huddersfield.
Whatever happened to him as well? All these names.
Mo at St Barnsley now.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's doing well at Barnsley. I think he might have gotten Team of the Year last year in League One as well when they went up. But that is a delightful finish. I mean, keeping again, good as I'm sure he can come onto that. And Alex Smithy's never had the best of times against Leeds in the Huddersfield shirt.
No,
but I mean, it is 4-1. McCormack does well to sort of take them both out of the game, but lovely little chipped finish on his left foot there, straight in.
What is the keeper doing there? He's knocked out one of his own players.
Probably doesn't trust the centre halves that day to deal with it. Takes a gamble. Smithy's decision making was a lot better than that. He was being kind of scouted by Premier League clubs for at least 2 seasons before we moved on. Yeah, nothing can really be said about it. He's come out, he's tried to punch it, and he's ended up absolutely ploughing through the 2 centre backs. So
that must have really hurt as well. Like, just watching
it looks like it hurt, yeah.
And he absolutely crunches him with his shoulder. And we'll reply to the social post with the highlights of this game so everyone can see what we're talking about. But I mean, wouldn't surprise me for a couple of teeth on the floor there on the Ellen Road turf.
Just need an early shout from one of the defenders. I'll deal with it. Nope. Smithy just steams in, just knocks them both out. Haymaker or what?
That's what you want to see.
Riley,
you're not having a good time with it, are you?
Just absolutely woeful.
Riley, anyone in these teams that springs out to you?
Obviously, you've got Norwood, Clayton, Huddersfield, who kind of moved on Clayton to where you go, Borough, and then Leeds, was it? And then obviously Norwood went, Brighton, Fulham, Pigs. So did quite well. Byram's a funny one because he was kind of supposed to be like the next big right back, like England international potential. Went down to West Ham, didn't he? And kind of just get looking. I saw him play a couple of times, and he looked awful, as if like all confidence had drained. And I thought, God, that this guy could actually take a step back further in the championship at that point. But I think he's moved to Norwich. I I think he had a couple of loans actually. They had a loan at Forest maybe, and then went to Norwich, and he seems to have kind of refound his form and become like that quality player that he was. But yeah, I expected more from him, to be fair. He was kind of on a long line of players that Leeds brought through at the time that they kind of sold way too quickly. Him, Charlie Taylor went to Burnley, a couple of fullbacks.
Lewis Cook.
Yeah, went down to Bournemouth. All your lads who went down to Norwich, your Johnsons,
Snoddy, Becchio, Houghton. Oh, I'm going to need therapy after this podcast.
Yeah, me and all.
No comment.
I like Leeds' first win in 8 matches, wasn't it? That was a really poor time to be a Leeds fan at the time.
Well, there were only 5 points between them and Huddersfield, both languishing in the middle of the Championship.
I mean, that Championship is funny, isn't it? Yeovil at the bottom of the Championship. They're in the conference now again, aren't
they? Yeah, they've absolutely plummeted.
I was looking who Wednesday were playing that day, and that was actually a Yorkshire derby day because we were at home to Barnsley. 1-1-0 with a 97th minute winner by Chris Maguire, who's now at Sunderland. But a real kind of niche name here got sent off really early on. Do you remember Emmanuel Frimpong?
Oh, Arsenal lad.
Yeah, he was an absolute nutcase. Got sent off after about 17 minutes.
He's retired now.
They actually went down to 9 men, and we scored in the 97th minute. I was of all places, I was in Gibraltar watching the game in a local sports bar, and all these locals could not get the head round why a lad was jumping up and down on his own watching Sheffield Wednesday versus Barnsley. No, good times.
So, Adam, did Leeds improve much after this game?
Not all, no. I think we ended up finishing lower than the 11th place that this result put us in. The unrest off the pitch definitely sort of filtered onto the pitch. It ended the season with Brian McDermott finally getting sacked, or inevitably getting sacked, I suppose. And then Dave Ockaday came in, and that was another chapter.
Well, it could be the season for you. If this season gets finished, you're in a good position to potentially get promoted. I think you and Sheffield United are probably the only Yorkshire teams that have got anything about them, or Rotherham, I suppose.
Rotherham, yeah.
Rotherham. What about Bradford? You've been very defeatist, Don, but you look at that League 2 table and you've still got a chance of playoffs.
Yeah, you've not seen us play much, have you, mate? Obviously, I live in hope. This virus, this lockdown could be, I mean, I hate to say it, obviously, because it's a terrible thing to be happening, but hopefully it could be a bit of a blessing in disguise for Bradford, really. It could, sorry, I was just distracted there because John Riley's had to go and put his little boy to bed. Rattled on too long. But yeah, fingers crossed, Bradford City can reset, finish the season strongly, but I'm not sure. Stuart McCall, he needs a bit of time to bed himself back into the club, get some players in, and fingers crossed that season starts again. We hit the ground running, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have much hope at the moment.
No, but we all need hope at this time, Dom. Let's all stay positive.
I'm trying. Right, on the subject of kids, I've got to go and put mine to bed as well. So we'll call it a day on this wonderful podcast. Thank you, boys. Oh, go on, Gooders.
I need to put myself to bed after all that. Goodness me.
I know, it was maybe. I think you need to go have a cup of tea, custard cream, make sure it's Yorkshire tea, obviously, and just relax for the rest of the evening and forget about this. Watch the playoff final or something again. Watch Huddersfield's greatest goals on YouTube.
Oh, Schindler.
Do something to cheer yourself up a little bit.
Absolutely, mate.
Lads, as ever, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you on the Yorkshire Football Podcast. Hopefully, we'll be back again next week with another episode and another look at one of Yorkshire's great derby games. Stay safe, stay inside, look after everyone as best you can, but look after yourself mostly. That's a well-known saying throughout Yorkshire. See you later, everyone.